Hello Hero, it's Lucy Lannon. I'm here with my Neon Moon Cyberpunk Tarot to do what I'm loosely calling like a spirituality reading. I don't really know what it is yet. We've done a riffle shuffle, we've put some reversals in, we're all ready to go. And we're ready to start apparently. With a card that's on the floor. They do this to me every time and I never want to get up to get it. Oh, rickety. Right. It's a 6 of swords. Swords. It's a 6 of swords. Also, I'm looking into the wrong bit of the camera because I was like, am I toppling off my chair? I can't quite tell. 6 of swords. Right. We're not going to go into interpretation just yet. We're going to get more than that. I'm going to turn this the other way so I can't see it. Come on. I need to distance myself from the last reading. I've cleansed and everything, it was just a bit taxing today. 9 of swords in reverse, speaking also to things being a bit taxing. I don't like that card at all, especially all the surgical implements, but we'll get to that. And what's this? A 9 of cups in reverse, which, let's cover that and make sure we can show it. Don't know whether you can really see these or not. I do apologise if you can't. Okay. This is a general reading for a large audience. Take what resonates, leave the rest. I shouldn't have to say that, but I do. I think this is about you rejecting the healing process, and I don't mean to say that in a way that's going to penalise you or make you feel that it's in an inappropriate way. That's a tongue twister. There is a sense that something has become too painful to dwell on. There is also a sense that sometimes we get addicted to the idea of doing the work, being in shadow work, doing the healing. I'm suddenly getting really hot and I wasn't before. So it's like you can't take the heat of this anymore. It's like too much. And with all this kind of, the thing that I'm getting from this 9 of arms that I really didn't like, if you want to look again, is like psychic surgery. And that's not to say that that's part of your practice or even part of your paradigm. And I'm not, slating those who do include that stuff. I find it fascinating. But it's more that like you're sick of doing psychic surgery on yourself. You're sick of removing you're sick of removing tumours, in an inverted commas sense, please don't take it medically, of like memories or traumas or bits of stuff that people have said to you or stuff that you believed that's metastasized into something else, or like growths within yourself that you don't like, that you feel needs fixing, or that the world imposes on you that needs fixing in some way, and you're like constantly cutting them out, and you're like, here, you're putting them on this silver platter for people to be like, here, I've done the work. But each time that you cut one out, it's fucking painful. You're scalpeling yourself. Sorry for the gory imagery, but this is an energy. It's making me feel really fucking uncomfortable, guys. I'm not gonna lie. But it needs to make me feel like that so I can get into how important this is, that you need to stop going over it. Fuck, I feel like crying. It's not that healing is no longer appropriate for you. That's not what I'm getting at. It's that healing feels just too much now. It's like, how long do I have to heal? How long do I have to be under the knife? Metaphorically, I mean, or physically. That you might be drawn to this channel because you saw the disability reading I did. I don't know. It's pile 1 of what you need to know right now if you're curious. Well, I'm disabled, so I've had, waking and sleeping experiences like this. 9 Nine of Cups is an interesting one to get with it, because it's almost like there was a belief that in removing these wounds, tumours, whatever you want to call them, I'm sorry if that word's triggering for anyone, but in removing these energetic ulcerations, shall we say, that there would be a process of congratulation or a reward from the universe, or some kind of dream realised, some kind of pleasure indulged, finally, after a long wait, is what I'm hearing. And what instead you're feeling is that you've been... Sorry guys, this is hard. You feel you've been tearing out parts of yourself for nothing, or for no result, or what I heard in words was that you've been ripping yourself to shreds and no one's even watching. There are two things that I'm being reminded of with this. The first is that if you cry a lot, and I'm a person who's a crier, right? I'm talking, here's the E.T. theme passing whilst in a car and starts bawling because it's E.T. and what happened to him. But if you are like easily triggered by things that shouldn't be emotional and you're crying a lot, what I'm reminded of is the sort of biological idea that we cry as babies to make a noise so that we are seen to, so that we are fed, so that we are nurtured, so that we are protected in some cases. Like we're sending out an alarm by crying that is like a cry for help to other people. And what I'm feeling is that for those of you who have been feeling very emotional in that way, you're crying and no one's coming. Or you feel that you're crying and no one's coming, should I say. Please, if you do feel depressed, desperate, isolated, anything like that, I'm not a medical qualified practitioner. Go seek help, seek somebody out. Equally, if you have resources regarding that for your country, pop them in the comments, because I don't know where to go for everywhere in the world. So, you know, help your brothers and sisters out, right? But there is a sense of desperation with this. There is like, how much do I have to injure my psychic self and cry and demonstrably feel shit about it? How much of a victim do I have to become in order that anybody sees me and comes and just helps out? And for some of you, not all of you, but for some of you, this links to self-harm as well. And like, I'm not just talking like self-harm in the sort of classic sense, but doing things with food or with drugs or with sex for some of you, that's like, look, clearly, look at this, I'm spiraling, clearly, will you come now? Will you help now? And you feel that the response has been just fucking silence. And I think that's affected your faith, I want to say, or your like spiritual practice, or the extent to which you're willing to undergo doing the work in order to be helpful to others or to heal fully, to be an asset to other people, which, you know, if you're in these kinds of circles, this channel kind of thing, that's why a lot of us often go into this and go deep into the shadow, so that we're clear enough to help other people out and to be to open the sluice gates for other people without being pulled under by the current, right? But with this Six of Arms, it's like you're trying to sail away from this, but there is a threat of being pulled under, definitely. And with it being this like cyberpunk city type thing, it makes me think of Barbalith. And it also makes me think of the Undercity in Futurama. I mean, both of those things are very similar. One probably drew from the other. I suspect Futurama sort of took from it. But it's that thing of like a hidden underwater perilous space that looks like the real world, but is full of tentacled things that are willing to pull you under, or is full of a different reality to what everyone else sees, overlaying on the current reality. It's almost like, it's like you can run but you can't hide. There's this level of, it looks normal to everybody else, but you're torn open. I'm getting a lot of the imagery from Hellraiser, if I'm honest, and I am a horror fan, so if that turns you off, I'm really sorry, but it's just like you're being pulled apart and all this weird stuff's happening to you, but it's only in like the Cenobite type universe, so people can't see it. You just look normal, like walking around. The other thing I'm seeing is the time leap stuff in Looper, where he's, again, sorry if this is triggering or too much or whatever, but I think in pop culture, I'm really sorry. But in Looper, where he's beating that guy and the injuries are happening in the future version of the guy, it's affecting stuff through timelines. So like, you don't see the guy being beaten up in the one reality, but then you see his nose go a different direction. It's really, and it's like, you feel like that. You feel like nobody's noticing until something's truly extreme, or you're feeling like you need to be in extremities or explore extremities somehow in order for this stuff to come to light. You might be someone who watches a lot of horror because of the cathartic value of things like body horror, to this feeling of like, I'm always ripping myself apart, I'm always having to do more, there's always more in there betraying me somehow. Or you might be in like BDSM cultures where people's need to go to those places is explored in what is ostensibly a safe way, although I would argue with that, and I would ask you to examine whether at your current point these spaces are healing for you or not, right? Because it can get beyond playing into something else sometimes, I think. Ace of Swords in reverse. Put your weapons down, man. I never said the other thing about... so I said the one thing I'm getting is this, and then I never said the other thing. The other thing was, when we were talking about removing tumours specifically, this isn't anything to do with cancer or anything like that. I don't want to trigger anyone with any of that topic. But when we talk about the formation of stuff like that in a very distant Cronenbergian way, even, if you are into body horror, what we're sort of discussing there is the body attempting to heal itself, and in overhealing, producing things that are no longer healthy. That is how those things grow, right? It's an attempt to heal a micro wound or a abnormal occurrence within a normal system that then develops into something which betrays that system or becomes an overcorrection to the point of illness. I feel that the reason that I meant to give that analogy, or the reason that I had to say those sorts of words in relation to your healing process, is this idea of overcorrection. Sorry if you can't hear me, sorry. The idea of overcorrection, and the idea that in working on something so much that you kind of know you're causing more damage, or you know that you're not feeling good, or that you're not up to it at the moment, or that it's just that you've had to go so deep into it that it's been damaging in some way, that damage then becomes its own thing that you later have to remove or correct. And it becomes its own way of being unhealed, or being in ill health, or of spiritually self-harming. What I'm getting overall in this is that you want to escape a process where no matter how much you heal, the healing itself seems to take over as your dominant paradigm, and it seems like you're removing parts of yourself to accommodate either an idealized version of yourself in the future, or a version of yourself that is better for society in a way that is self-harming now, that is spiritually too much for you to take on at the moment. It's almost like this reading is kind of a warning bell against the work you've been doing. And I'm not saying that work is bad. inherently, but you can do too much of it. And I think you have, and I think you've almost forgotten the part of yourself that didn't need to be fixed, didn't need to be constantly healed, constantly advised, made better, faster, stronger, that wasn't constantly undergoing these kind of surgeries in a spiritual sense. You may have forgotten what it feels like to just run around outside instead of being in like the psychic or psychological hospital ward all the time. And I think you've adapted to the survival mode of being there. You know where all the vending machines are, you know what to watch on those like fold out TV things over the beds, you know when to contact people, you know what to do around visiting hours so you're not bored. But what you've forgotten is that you used to be a free man or woman or other. You used to be out of those gates, and your body has the capacity, your mind, your spirituality has the capacity to be free. But you've put yourself in a paradigm of needing constant adjustment and attention in a spiritual sense. And that's always offered in those kinds of places. But does that mean that you need it right here, right now? The other thing I want to say about that, and I almost hate to say it because I make money from readings, there are certain institutions, certain organisations, even certain individuals that benefit from you being unhealed longer. Or that benefit from panicking you with what they tell you about yourself. If you watch a lot of tarot readings, be careful of the vibe you're getting from the readers you're choosing, right? Present company, obviously included. Send this message to those people who mean to you, is what my trousers say. I really enjoy badly translated text on outfits. I don't know about you, it's just one of my kinks or whatever. It's just, my wardrobe's full of it. I just like prints on things, and then when the prints come, they're quite often made in places that don't speak English as a first language, and then the way that they explain stuff in the print is even better than the print itself. The reason that I bring that up, or that I look at my own trousers in this reading, is that I felt that actually sometimes these things that don't seem to belong can be read as messages, and if you're in spiritual sort of life cycle, you'll probably know that, right? So we're going to take this divination, show this message to those people who mean to you. I read these trousers in two different ways when I got them, opened them up and realised what the print said, after laughing quite a lot and being just utterly joyous. It could either be pass on how you're feeling about all of this to these people who mean the most to you, people you can trust, who are perhaps outside of a healing paradigm at the moment and will fully understand that you're done at the minute. You can't excavate more. It's like an exhumation. You can't bring up more plutonic stuff. You just can't cope with more of it for the time being. Whether or not you return to it, up to you. It could also mean this message to those who are mean to you. And I don't advise that you share your personal circumstance with people who don't have your best interests at heart, but I think the way that links into what I was saying is that if you are being told by various spiritualists, various tarot readers, various psychologists, etc., that there are people around you who are plotting against you, that there are people around you who are cursing you, doing spells on you, who don't have your interests at heart, who are pathological narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, who are cluster B personalities, who are whatever, and you need to defend against them, and you need to be alert for this and expecting this terrible thing and doing that other thing and protecting and panicking and protecting and panicking and protecting and panicking. It's no wonder then that this process of healing keeps perpetuating. And I'm somebody on this channel, I don't like to give advice like that. if it comes up in a reading, I will say so-and-so's been doing something shady, but I don't draw in people through a subject header which says, oh, terrible people. You know, you'll find that even where I have reading headings like enemy, alert, literally in some cases, or revenge or whatever, it will be a reading about actually, you know, spoiler alert, kind of loving your neighbour and letting it go because they're as damaged as you. Or, you know, about this alarmist approach within the spiritual community at the moment and how that can shake up your energy. And that is what's coming through for you, is that as well as all of this work that you're doing with, you know, genuine healing, whether physical or based on trauma, there is also an ambient environmental thing that you need to be sailing away from, of everyone's against you, everything bad is happening, and you can solve that for the low price of, or you can fix that by subscribing to only this channel and listening to me every day talking more about how everyone around you except you is toxic. By gum, like, fuck all that noise, man. You don't need it, especially from where you are. The funny thing about that sort of rhetoric in spiritual circles as well is that people tend to sort of talk about cleansing in the same space as they talk shit about other people for over an hour. I've been guilty of it, right? Like I say, there are some readings where it's a necessary thing to say, this person has done this to you and you know about it and it's shit and let's work through it. But where you're having somebody where all of their input to your life is, oh, and so is plotting against you, and there's a third party here and they're being toxic in this way, and people are trying to get you out of your position at work, and also your health is about to take a hit because this person's put a curse on you, so make sure you protect yourself. Anyone would feel like shit listening to that all day. So if you've been addicted in any way to what I do, to what my peers do here, and any of that sort of messaging is coming through, just fucking pause this and unsubscribe like fuck to anybody whose readings don't make you feel slightly better than you did at the beginning of them, right? I was going to put up a whole thing to new people coming from places like TikTok who aren't familiar with tarot, who don't have practitioners around them that have been doing it for decades, and sort of go through like what to look for in tarot readers where it's a sort of bad sign. And then I ended up psyching myself out of it because it's kind of a shitty thing to do to other readers. But honestly, if it comes down to anything, it's, do they make you feel better? Right? I'm not saying that every reading you get should put the will to rights. Certainly we haven't got there with this one yet. But they shouldn't make you feel worse. And equally, if you're in a healing modality that's analogous in any other way, you know, you physically came to somebody because of a serious illness that has perhaps gone into remission or gotten a little better or improved with medical intervention as well as an alternative therapy, but you've come back to that person and they've then said, oh, and now you've got this wrong with you and now you've got that wrong with you. Wake up. I love you, wake up. All right, and I'm not blaming you. I'm not even blaming that practitioner, because we look for problems, right? We provide solutions, and it's very difficult, particularly for physical energy workers, when there is a lot of toxicity about and there are constant things coming in sometimes, and we have to advise the clients on the best course of action. So we may be feeding back repeatedly like, oh, you know, from a medical intuitive perspective or whatever it is, there's also this thing that needs sorting out, or there's this trauma that needs healing might be blocking this chakra or whatever it is, right? But there's only so many times you can be told that shit before you just get fatigue with it. And I'm feeling that fatigue running through me right now from you. And I think you should just take a step back, man. I think if you found this and if you're resonating with it, you know as well as I do, like, The work that you've been doing to heal is now in excess of the healing process and is going into perpetuating some kind of cycle with you. And that's not necessarily even the harm, it's not even necessarily the fault of the modality appearing to cause harm. It's just that people have different habits, people have different patterns, frameworks, structures, backgrounds, traumatic histories, triggers in terms of emotional flashback, all kinds of stuff. We are nuanced beings, right? And remaining, you're going to hate me for using this word, but high vibrational, is often more instinctive than just taking the correct advice from everybody else who is operating with their bodies and their minds and their restrictions and their areas of freedom, right? This is partly why I love astrology, because it hones in on how you're different to every fucker else. It talks about you and not like sweeping statements about the toxicity of modern life. I don't want to make out like spirituality isn't for you. I don't want to make out like healing isn't for you. I believe these things are incredibly beneficial. You may even be midway through a really important healing cycle, and that's why you feel so low. But at the moment, I think you need to step away from being healed, or from being, from the process of healing, not from being healed, because that's the end state. There's a lot of assumption thing here in this, and I know it's not everyone's paradigm, but constantly positioning yourself as something that needs to be perfected or prevented from drastic harm in some cases is an affirmation. It has effects on your body, on your mind. Again, you don't need to be fixed. You're not broken. There might be traumas that you need to unwind and unpick. That's fine. We've all got them, right? But positioning yourself in this kind of victim mindset thing, and I'm not demonizing when I say that because I go into it, particularly with disability, but positioning yourself as like always needing to be better or to be made better by an external thing exhibits a lack of self-trust, a self-concept where you're broken, a self-concept where things could get a lot worse if you're not highly vigilant at all times, a self-concept where your circumstance is the enemy of your growth, which is not the case. And it doesn't leave room for that beautiful thing about contrasting circumstance where even the worst illness, even the most adverse, horrible thing, people dying around you, relationships breaking up, financial ruin, all of which I've experienced in the last 10 years directly, by the way. These can all be what illuminates your dream, your wish, and what helps that thing to come true for you. That's why we have these experiences. Sometimes like fixing things that belong in that sense is also problematic. There is a grace to planetary transits that ruin your fucking life. There is a grace to someone breaking up with you and absolutely devastating you and turning out in 10 years to be the worst thing that would have happened to you if they hadn't. And I think you need to allow room for your own grace and room for some of these things to just be life happening that will make a bit more sense in time, and not something that it is your job to pull out and fix and remove and cleanse and exercise and banish now, this second, while you're tired. Judgment. See these wings? You might feel like that's what's left of yours if you're an energy worker. I noticed they're covered in cobwebs though, or the wires look like cobwebs. And that makes me think of spider and how spider kind of weaves its own reality in a symbolic sense. That's why there's so many spider myths and stuff, which I urge you to check out if you're not arachnophobic, or even if you are, because at my most arachnophobic point, where for medical reasons I was hallucinating spiders, that was when spider started to share wisdom with me in that sense. So sometimes the things that we're afraid to look at are the best things for us, but there's something here about your own web, weaving your own reality. I'm pulled to share something with you. Hold up. I don't normally do this at all. Hello, I'm back. In relation to the spidery bits, I was asked for my astrology work to write something about fate or free will in terms of like what I believe to be true, the extent to which I believe in a deterministic universe, so that I can enhance professional practice by kind of deciding where I stand on the relationship between the movement of the spheres and the patterns and correlations of people over thousands and thousands of years, right? Because it's weird, and we kind of had to come up with our own version of why that weird is such a thing, in a way. And I never do this in readings, but I'm going to share what I wrote, which is deeply personal, and hope that you get something out of it because of this spider thing. If you didn't resonate with the spider wings imagery on this, you just want to get to the rest of the reading, I'll leave a thing in the timestamp that you can skip this bit and go to the rest of it. And also, I hasten to add, this probably isn't from me. Like, I don't want to call it a channeled thing or anything, because it's probably just a mixture of spider myths I've read and like shit from Weave World, or like it feels very Clive Barker to me in a way that I haven't fully examined, but it just seemed like the right thing to write for the class. So, fate and free will. Divine will as the spider, weaver, or pattern epicenter of a web comprised of threads of possibilities, converging on a singular space of ultimate divine purpose. We can activate or break any of these threads as the outer points of the web. They become more circumstantial and open to choice. Our movements also vibrate towards the spider and indicate our progress towards the center or to deeper callings, the judgment card, or less negotiable planetary factors shaping the next choice. Equally, currents from the spider's movements vibrate along the threads that we occupy. Cosmic feedback, major transits, religious experiences, etc. All threads receive these vibrations, all possible realities contain them, but we choose the reality that we're in or the threads that we choose to occupy, and thus how that particular iteration of a cosmic theme might come about. Essentially, you don't choose the nature of the web or where you begin at a conscious level, but all of your movements are up to you. Mastery of the web is in realizing that you are traveling and activating rather than becoming entangled, i.e., while some fates are relatively unavoidable, you are not a fly becoming trapped in the threads, but a spiderling bearing some of the characteristics and autonomies of the divine weaver. This is why astrology, as a partial map of the web, indicates trends and not absolutes, yet indicates a deeper truth. That's what I mean with the spiderweb thing. And it, you know, we were doing about we were looking into the three weavers, the three fates as well, so it may have bits of that in, but I just feel like that's relevant to you. Judgment in a more general sense in the card is about a calling towards something. It's about movement towards a higher calling. I feel for some of you like you've been doing this healing work or this work about realities, maybe even looping realities, shifting. For some of you will resonate if you use like shifting subliminals and stuff like that. Going from one to the other in that way that we describe with the looper analogy. It's also very everywhere, everything everywhere all at once, which is an excellent movie, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Very spiritual in so many senses. Yeah, there's this thing about like shifting between one thing and the other and sort of being shunted into the timeline of your highest good or your highest purpose. And you believing that the way to get to that, or the way to fast track to that, is to do the healing work on yourself to pull out what happened to you in the past, or pull out your weaknesses or your habits or your behaviors or your kind of devil card energy. Whereas actually what I feel is that this judgment or calling card was coming up for you. Calling card, lol. Hello, spiders. It was coming up for you because you are being called to something that you feel is your job, or you feel fires you up, or a higher purpose, a true will, in the sort of thelemic sense, because that's a better focus than this healing energy that you've been almost trapped in, like a web, right, in a different way. So for some of you, the answer is to follow what it is that you felt you were meant to be doing, instead of presuming that you have to be healed in order to do that thing, because the healing is kind of the damaging at the minute. It makes me think of, I don't want to go too specific with this example because it's really personal to someone I know, but it makes me think of when sometimes the interventions or the drugs or the procedures used in, provable, statistical backed, peer researched fucking medical stuff are actually causing more problems than they are solutions, and that can happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen to you. This isn't predictive, this isn't prescriptive. I'm not a medical practitioner, but I've known of people where the solution to the problem became a bigger problem, and it's almost like healing work in a spiritual sense for you has kind of taken on that hat, right? Eight of Arms, Eight of Swords. Notice that all of these kind of jabs are coming from below as well, which makes me think that some of the people that you've been turning to for guidance, we're not on a meritocracy, we're not on an evolution timeline. There's not people above or below each other in being fucking awakened. But there are people who are less developed in certain areas than others. And my feeling on this is that perhaps you've been under the care or under the guidance in a spiritual sense, not medical sense, of people who know less or have less life experience, or who actually are interfering with, in the sense of the web, the kind of destiny of that adverse circumstance for you, for your purpose, for your development, for your understanding. Hit me up in the comments if that hurts. And in terms of like how you understand things, to the extent that you feel able to share anyway. I am intrigued because it's been a process these last few years. Death. For just a minority of you, you're like me and you've died, in a technical sense. And this is part of the trauma. This is what you've had to let go of. And this is also the reason why people coming to you talking about death or near death or terminal prognoses or anything sort of related is rubbing you up the wrong way, because, well, you've been there. How the fuck would they know? And I very much have experience of that as well, counsellors with years of experience telling me anyone could die tomorrow when I'd actually been given 2 years and things like that. It's a crazy world out there, and everyone's trying to help. Everyone needs love. Everyone deserves respect, right? I'm not saying that everyone in certain professions is full of shit. What I am saying is that if your gut instinct when returning to a certain modality or a certain person or a certain spa even, is that someone there or something there is full of shit, and it's like rubbing you up the wrong way, or it's making you feel uncomfortable, or it's making you feel overwhelmed, maybe sometimes you do know more. Maybe sometimes getting in touch with yourself in the Jungian sort of sense has more utility to your overall spiritual development and healing than listening to somebody who does not have the life experiences that you do. More broadly, for people who that doesn't apply to, this is talking about the death of viewing things in a life or death way, or in a way where you, again, frame yourself as needing to be fixed, as needing to be cured, as being a problem that there is a solution to out there somewhere, instead of getting into deeper touch with yourself and going, what do I feel I need today, right? Not even in general, but just right here, right now. It might just be sleep. It might just be some nice food or a hug or someone to fucking rant to about all of this and hit me up. You know, I'm here. Yeah, it's a lot, and I think this reading is the death of it, and you saying, enough, I'm done healing for now, right? It's not saying you don't have any more healing work to do. All of us always have more healing work to do, but that's the trap, right? When is it enough? When are you enough for you? Four of Cups. It's an interesting one to end on. Somebody is handing this cup to him from a cracked place, and he is under a spider web again, or under a set of wires that look like one. Again, the cracked place, right? Not everything that glitters is gold. Not everyone that says they're fully healed is. I include myself in that, right? Don't come to this channel expecting a fucking guru. I'm just living my life and I get messages. And if they're useful, great, fantastic, let me know. And if they're not, well, I'm flawed too, right? And anyone who can't come across that way to you has their own work to do and might not be what you need right now. Equally, if anything that I said there about the web or anything to do with spiders or your personal associations with such things, with such myths, hits, if there's anything you want to share in the comments, wicked. You would do better to tune into your own things on that than to listen to somebody else tell you what their take on what you need to know is right now. Really, what I'm getting from all of this is that you have more sense than you give yourself credit for. And you're so busy pulling out parts of yourself that you feel are unhealed that you fail to notice how much healing work and how much wisdom you have and you've accumulated and you've done. And really, what's needed is rest and congratulation and a decision about how you use this to better the planet in terms of your purpose and in terms of what fires you up and gives you chutzpah instead of drains you or puts you to sleep. You don't need to be anaesthetized by the world so that they can remove something terrible and obnoxious. You need to be fired up by your immediate environment back into the inspiration that you used to feel in order to be that ascended being that I know you are, to help other people just have a good time. Some of us are here as beacons to other people, that they can live how they want to live, that they can be who they want to be, that they can dress like a twat, that they can talk shit on a tarot channel if that shit's coming from something other than them, that they want to communicate and express for the highest good of all, right? I often go back and forth, to be quite honest, on my mission as to how much of it is directly healing other people with advice and stuff, and how much of it actually is just giving them permission to do their damn selves by being myself on loudspeaker in a public way. And I think that in the same way, you remembering the outside of the hospital, spiritually speaking, you know, the hospital, you remembering the old you, getting back into vivid colour, getting back into not being enough for anybody or anything, not having all the markers of any particular fucking paradigm, but just enjoying it a bit, because that's kind of what you're here for. That will help as many people as you telling how you healed, or as you being this like ascended master figure that you have in your head as future you, that's like above all of this and can now be a healing channel for others. My dude, the healing channel for others bit comes when you are vibrantly, exuberantly, enthusiastically living deliciously in your own world and encouraging others by virtue of your incredible presence to just enjoy their own as well, no matter what's going on for them. Try that. Humbly. Might work, might not. I don't know. But it seems like the message from Spirit, before any of my input, is that you need to step away from constantly fixing what is not broken to begin with. And I really hope that on a deep level you realise that. Woosah. If you enjoyed this reading, cannot speak, now we're in normal mode. Oh, that was a lot. If that was useful to you in any way, if you like me, if you thought any of what I said was remotely true, please hit like, please subscribe, please ding the dong, thank you kindly. I'm around doing at least a video a day for the rest of October. I'm also around regularly, beyond, a few times a week. We'll see how many times on that, because I'm in my own process of all this stuff. But it will be regular, and we do everything on this channel. Love readings, friendship readings, money readings, spirituality readings like this, stuff that we don't know before we get it, psychic tombola / lucky dip A to Z things where we pull words literally out of an envelope and go, oh, we're doing a reading on that today, wicked. There's a whole playlist of that if you want to check it out. We do readings with ink in cups. We will do readings with hot chocolate coming soon. It's just all of it. It's just divination bonanza. And at some point, when I'm sort of fully qualified and under an association or a regulated body, there will also be astrology content on here, because that's something I do on the side too. So if you're interested in any of that and you vibe with me, which I'm assuming you do if you got this far, please, you know what to do. You know what to do, right? Help me out. I have been reading for a good number of years in person, mostly on rooftops in a weird way. Don't know how that works out, but it does. And I have recently, during the pandemic, I opened an Etsy shop, which, because of the pandemic, didn't take off immediately very well. People were kind of busy. So this channel has sort of been going since then, on and off, building up so that Etsy can become the main way that I read for people, and I can become a global international reader rather than someone who just approaches locals with my weird shit and says, hey, maybe I could help you out. So if you would like to see me be able to speak to more people, if you believe in what I'm doing, push this channel to everyone. Everyone that your Auntie Margaret, your Uncle Ken, and everyone in between. Because I really would like to make it more of a long distance global venture. I feel that's part of my mission. I know you're very in touch with your mission. If you understand already what it is, hit me up down below. If you don't understand what it is and you'd like more of a clue, I do a reading on that. But you're not obligated. I'm not here for your money. I just want to help you out. I've rambled on for more than long enough. I like you. You should like you more. All right? Keep at it, but maybe give yourself a break. Maybe cut the healing out for a little time, okay? And I hope to see you soon, but maybe take a break before that point from readings and stuff like that, and just have some fun, chill out a bit, rest, right? And I'll see you on the other side of that process.